Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick.
I'm Ian.
Today we're talking about music we've recently been listening to. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. So these are always fun episodes to kind of go over stuff that we've been listening to lately because, I think we both try to do, I think we're both pretty good about trying to find new and interesting stuff to listen to. Sometimes I find some good stuff. Sometimes I will say that there was a playlist I was listening to on Apple Music just recently where it was like 500 new songs that came out, and they were all horrible.
Right.
I think I found one good song in the entire playlist.
I was going to say, if our goal is to find a bunch of new music that we're listening to, I've kind of failed on this on this video. So,
but there is some newer stuff that I've been listening to.
Yeah.
So I will say the first album that I got to talk about is one that I don't know why. I think it just wasn't available on streaming services, and that's why I just never really listened to it. Mm-hmm. It is available now. And of course, since I just got the Black Sabbath, Tony Martin era box set, it's one I've been listening to a lot, and that's Headless Cross. And this is one that I guess I probably have listened to because I think you had it on CD, didn't you?
No, I didn't have this one. That's why it was probably, like I said off video, was I really need to give it another listen because I have listened to it. I think I probably had a bootleg download somewhere at one point or another, yeah. And I just don't remember it hitting me right. But I don't know. I think it could have something to do with the mix because Forbidden, the new mix sounds so good. Yes. It almost sounds like a brand new album, in my opinion. So maybe I just need to reevaluate it. And it's been a long time. I knew Headless Cross, the title track on here. I knew a couple other tracks on here. And that's why this is one of the albums I was really looking forward to checking out when I got the box set. And to be honest, outside of, this is probably my second favorite non-Ozzy album from Sabbath, behind Heaven and Hell. I mean, it's an incredible album, and it's one that, it's really, like I said, it's grown on me so much in the last, last 3 or 4 days since I've had the box set. Yeah. It's great. It's a great album. I've listened to this at least probably 4 or 5 times since I got the box set. Yeah, for me, I would never compare the eras. I don't compare Ozzy stuff to Dio's stuff, and I wouldn't compare Dio's stuff to Tony Martin stuff or Ian Gillian's stuff. I think Ian Gillian only did one album, but I wouldn't compare them to each other. I would kind of compare them within their own eras. So that being said, I really need to go back and listen to some of these albums to really kind of give them a
good listen,
a 2020 version of a review.
Yeah. And it's a lot easier to do now that they're all available.
Now they're all available with proper mixing.
Yes.
Because let's face it, and I can tell you this, I didn't realize it back in the day, but Forbidden
it was mixed horribly.
Yeah, I mean, a huge disservice to the material and how it was mixed. So one of the things I've been listening to, and this has been going on for about a month or so, we went and saw Bad Religion and Social Distortion live. I've never really listened to Bad Religion. Walking away from that concert, though, I became an instant Bad Religion fan, and that's pretty much a lot of what I've been listening to lately. This is their more recent album. It's the only one that Nick had. I don't have any yet.
I've got Suffer also.
Oh, you've got Suffer as well. But this one,
Age of Unreason is a really good album.
Yeah, this is their most recent album. I think this came out in 2019. Yeah. And I've listened to this one probably about 5 times, maybe 6 in the last month. But their whole catalog I've just kind of been going album to album over and over again. The first 2 weeks after that concert, I listened to nothing but Bad Religion. And they've quickly become one of my favorite bands ever. Really.
They're one of those bands that I don't think they really have a bad album.
Not that I found.
There's some that are, I think are definitely better than others.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're, I think you can just pick a Bad Religion album and listen to it. I mean,
you almost can, and I pretty much have, because that's kind of, I haven't listened to them in order. I've been bouncing around, but I've been trying to listen to the full album. That way I get a feel for, each individual collection. Yeah. And this one, like I said, I've done about 6 times on this one. So Recipe for Hate is probably one I've listened to the most all the way through. From 93, I think that came out.
Yeah. Well, it's actually just got reissued on vinyl like 5 or 6 months ago.
Oh, well, I know what I'll be buying eventually. I want to get every Bad Religion album on vinyl. I want to get every one of them on CD as well. I really, like I said, they could easily be in my top 5 bands now. Yeah. And like Nick said, there isn't a bad album among their entire catalog. So, and I'm looking forward to more material coming out from these guys.
Another one I've had on pretty regularly, within the last probably month or so, ever since it got reissued, is Pyromania by Def Leppard. Easily one of my favorite albums of the 80s. They just released the anniversary copies of this. This is actually the Walmart exclusive version. I love the early period, the pre-Hysteria era from Def Leppard. It didn't have it wasn't as shiny poppy as Hysteria was, or really anything that they've done since then. Their earlier stuff had a harder edge to it. I think Pyromania, at least in my opinion, is the pinnacle of the earlier stuff.
I think they really truly peaked with this album. I mean, that doesn't negate that there's a lot of good songs on Hysteria, but I don't think they've reached the level of quality since Pyromania. So another one that I've been listening to, and this is where we're going to go into, of course he's listening to that territory, and it's Point of No Return by Kansas. This is kind of my go-to for Kansas. When I'm in a Kansas mood, this is always going to be the first album I go to. I personally think this is their best album.
I think Left Overture gets talked about a lot, but I agree. I think this is a better album.
See, there's one or two songs in Left Overture that I wouldn't say they're skippable, but I do sometimes skip them. Yeah. Whereas this one is a beginning to end all the way through. You don't skip any songs. I think it's just a more cohesive album. I think Left Overture was kind of their Hail Mary, because they were not selling records. Even though those first 3 albums they released were awesome, they just weren't selling. They were selling out shows, but they weren't selling records. Yeah. And back then it was all about record sales. Left Overture was their Hail Mary, and it got them going. And I think this is a much more cohesive album, because it's, okay, we succeeded finally. We're selling records. Let's do something.
They had their blueprint down. They had their sound down.
Yeah. And some would argue that after this they went downhill. I don't think so. I like a lot of their future albums, but I really think this is their best album. And like I said, I was in a Kansas mood, so obviously this was the one I was going to go with.
A band I just came across within the last couple of days. It's called Super American. Their latest album is called Gangster of Love. I'll put up a picture of it here on the screen. I have a copy of it on order. I don't have it yet. They're a newer punk band, but if you listen to them, they're you can hear some Blink-182 in there. They've got songs that sound like could be like a Sum 41 song. They've got some. The issue I have with a lot of newer punk bands is, even when their albums are good, a lot of them have this kind of same kind of sound throughout the album. The Gangster Love does not have that. There's a lot of variation to the songs. There's some softer songs in there. There's some harder songs in there. There's songs that aren't really even punk. They're more I'd say 90s alternative, or some harder alternative in there. It's a really good album. It's one I've listened to. Like I said, I've come across this band probably within the last 3 or 4 days. I've already listened to this album probably half a dozen times already. And if you're unfamiliar with the band, definitely check them out.
Okay, another one, File Under, no big surprise there.
Ian can't go an episode without talking about Jethro.
I really can't. I'm going to talk about it more than once. Stormwatch is another album that is a go-to for me. If I'm feeling like I want to listen to Tull, I just kind of want to listen to Tull, I'm going to go to Stormwatch first. It's either going to be this or Thick as a Brick. Because I want to say this arguably could be my second favorite Tull album. It varies, but there are times where I would say that. I love Stormwatch. Came out in 1979. The fans are mixed on it.
I'm mixed on it.
Yeah,
I think it's a good album, but
I think so this was made at a point in the band where everyone was firing musically and creatively, but not emotionally. There was I wouldn't say there's tension in the band, but people just weren't.
There was a disconnect.
There was a slight disconnect in the band. Their bass player had just died, and I think that really took a toll on the emotions. Barrymore Barlow, the drummer, they were very close. John Glasscock and him were very close, so it hit him really hard. I know it hit Martin Barr really hard. So I think that the darkness of this album maybe is what helps it to stand out, because the creativity's still there, but there's definitely a sadness and a darkness that underplays the songs.
An album that I didn't have on my radar at all until it was just recently released, and it's quickly been one of my favorite albums of the year so far, is East Side of Eden by Jenavi. She is the half of the Bomb Pops.
Okay.
So Bomb Pops, they had kind of split up about 2 years ago. Jenavi kind of kept the band going, and when she released her debut solo album earlier this year, I was kind of expecting to have kind of a Bomb Pops kind of punk sound, and it's anything like that. I mean, there are some punk kind of songs on here, but it's more like singer-songwriter stuff. It's a little more folksy at times on here also. It's very different. It's very different what I was expecting this album to sound like. And, like I said, it's probably one of my top 3 albums of the year so far.
So my next one is, again, no surprise, it's Songs from the Wood by Jethro Tull. It's another one I've been listening to this week. It's kind of, it's the juxtaposition between this one and Stormwatch. They're 2 years apart.
But they're very different albums.
But they're very different, and that's because this is an album, same thing, creatively, everyone's firing on all cylinders, but everyone's kind of happy right now in the band. Everyone is feeling the creativity in it, and it shows throughout the album. It's a bit more cheerful. I don't know. There's just, it's obvious that this is kind of the last peak of that Tull lineup.
Yeah. So the band Rise Against, for me, is kind of along the same lines as Bad Religion for you. Or like, I knew of the band. Mm-hmm. I had only heard a couple of songs here or there. And then I picked up their latest album, which came out in 2021, I think it was. And that is Nowhere Generation. And I have listened to it a couple of times, in the year that I've had this. But then for some reason, I liked it when I first listened to it. And then just recently when I listened to it again, it's like the album clicked for me. And I mean, this thing's been pretty much nonstop. I've listened to it over the last couple of weeks. I also bought it on CD so I can listen to it in my car. Rise Against, they have a lot of punk themes throughout their music, but their music is very different throughout their career. They're much more punk, I think, earlier in the career, a little more like post-hardcore at times also. And this album is kind of a culmination of all those different sounds from across their career. And the album works. I know a lot of people are down on this album. Fans of this band really didn't like this album. I think it's probably one of their better albums.
Kind of the last one I've got that I've really been listening to this week is Powerslave by Iron Maiden. I don't have a physical copy.
I don't have a copy of it either.
Neither does Nick. So
I'll drop a copy right there.
One of the coolest album covers of all time, too, by the way. I don't know. I know it's amongst Iron Maiden fans, it's considered to be kind of a peak point for their albums. It's probably not for me, but I understand why people think that, because there are so many great songs on that album. And like I said, it was kind of a go-to. I think between that and, honestly, Brave New World are the two that like kind of my go-tos when I'm really feeling like I want to listen to Iron Maiden, but nothing specific.
Yeah.
And Brave New World was the first one that Bruce Dickinson did coming back to the band after he left the band. Which is it's a fantastic record. But Powerslave, I think, is kind of like I said, it's for Iron Maiden fans, it's really kind of like the pinnacle of that early era.
Well, that's all we got for today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop us a comment down below. Let us know what you've been checking out lately. I had a longer listen to this. I kind of had to pare it down to fit it into
There's a few others I've been listening to.
A little 15-minute episode or so. But, let us know what you guys have been listening to. Like always, if you enjoy the episode, make sure you use the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all we got. Until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Keep on spinning. Peace.